In the Hollywood blockbuster film Ad Astra, celebrated astronaut Roy McBride, played by Brad Pitt, is charged with a mission to travel into deep space to find his long-lost father, played by Tommy Lee Jones.
I'm calm, steady. I slept well, 8.2 hours, no bad dreams.
For the majority of the film, regardless of meteor showers, murderous laboratory baboons, or even hand-to-hand combat with space pirates, Roy remains a blank, emotionless canvas. Emotions in the workplace take center stage in the story, not only in shaping conflict between one human to another, but more importantly, human to machine.
Is this part of my psych eval?
No, not really, but yes. I mean, you're going to be monitored constantly, your mental state, your emotional state.
The beginning of the main conflict begins just before his final jump into deep space, when Roy's emotional armor unravels during an AI health check.
You have failed your psychological evaluation. You will be returned to a comfort room until you are deemed.
While the AI can objectively assess Roy's emotional state, it does so based on statistical benchmarks of what others have done in the past. In other words, unlike a human manager, it sees numbers, not the person. Ad Astra may be set in the distant future, but emotional artificial intelligence is already here and changing how we live and work. Simply put, emotional AI is the ability of machines, sensors, and devices to gauge, learn, interact, sense, and simulate human emotions by reading a person's biometric signs. This includes everything from facial expressions, heart rate, tone of an email, body movements, and even skin conductance levels. There is a misconception that AI is something new, when in fact, it has been rising steadily in the background for quite a while. Throughout our daily lives, whether we're reading our email, driving to work, playing video games, or even shopping in the supermarket, there's an unseen industry devoted to the constant extraction of personal information. Every time that you use Facebook, Google, Amazon, Instagram, and loyalty cards, your personal information and emotional profile is being harvested, cataloged, and analyzed for the sake of consumer behavior research. Companies can use this data to predict and persuade everything from Amazon purchase recommendations to your next Netflix binge to even influencing and shaping our ideas of truth and reality. This is surveillance capitalism at its deepest and most intimate level, a form of algorithmic soul training where people willingly and voluntarily subject themselves to constant surveillance in exchange for user conveniences, rewards, and memberships.
Hello, Mr. Yakamoto. Welcome back to the Gap. How those assorted tank tops work out for you?
It is difficult to say that the world as a whole is unaware of this. There seems to be a fundamentally different view of AI between the East and the West.
Daughter.
The West's inherent distrust and dystopian view of artificial intelligence can be traced back to the origins of the computer during the Cold War. At the height of the Cold War, with propaganda and paranoia at an all-time high, people conflated computers with the nuclear arms race and the possibility of Armageddon. The birth of the personal computer in the 1970s did much to humanize the computer, but this negative association of the computer has withstood the test of time, and it is perhaps because of pervasive fear that computers are becoming too smart or that they may soon turn against their human masters, as evidenced by the likes of Colossus Forbin Project, Terminator, and more recently, the treacherous AI in the film Ex Machina. As the East remained removed from most Cold War propaganda, the Shintoist respect for inanimate objects carried over towards artificial intelligence, resulting in the likes of Astro Boy and Doraemon. Japan faces some unique problems right now. Among them, people trading careers for marriages, a declining birth rate, and a growing elderly population in need of physical as well as mental health care. In order to meet these problems, Japan Society 5.0 is a government plan to integrate AI into all aspects of society. Despite the West's negative perception of artificial intelligence, however, empathy recognition has blossomed into a $20 billion industry with potential to double that amount, in part due to the ingenuity of Western companies like Spotify's mood-based playlist suggestions, Amazon's Alexa voice analytics software, which reads the user's emotional state and tempers its responses accordingly, children's toys such as the social robot Moxie, or companies like Affectiva and Honda have created emotion engines which detects whether a driver is angry or happy, alert or distracted, and calm or stressed through sensors within the car. Despite these commercial applications, the fastest growing area of emotional artificial intelligence application is in the workplace. Since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, surveillance of the worker has been an integral part of capitalism. Frederick Winslow Taylor's studies dictated that an unobserved worker was an unproductive worker. With the rapid pace of industrialization and assembly line production falling out of sync with slow rhythms of the laborer, organizations in the early 20th century looked for technological solutions to better manage the productivity of the worker. Today, workers are no longer simply seen as human capital, but rather as conduits of insights gleaned from the extraction of their body's non-conscious data. As another layer of surveillance capitalism, emotional AI recalibrates the horizons of capital, not by expanding outward into the consumer domain, but rather turning inward, extracting greater value from the labor process.
Introducing Moodbeam, a simple-to-use wearable that allows you to capture how you feel at the touch of a button.
Yet the growing acceptance of the international business community to use AI technology to deepen practices of workplace surveillance raises a myriad of ethical and legal concerns that will linger far beyond the pandemic. For instance, algorithmic bias is a key concern today, especially in its inability to accurately read people of color or minority groups placed under biometric surveillance. Additionally, workers placed under constant biometric surveillance are found to experience higher levels of techno-stress and anxiety, and as a result, carry lower organizational commitment. Finally, many companies insist on operating with a black box approach that hides the algorithmic assessments of their tech under a veneer of scientific objectivity. This allows companies to avoid regulatory scrutiny, and the lack of transparency means priority is given to actuarial rather than human-centered managerial decisions. This in turn runs the risk of AI being misunderstood by both employer and employee. These are but a few of the risks that need to be addressed before these powerful managerial tools can be harnessed for good. Emotional AI is uncritically being ushered in as part of the new normal in the golden age of big data. One thing is for certain, its impact on new regimes of effective labor offer tremendous power in the hands of those who wield them.